I'm sure most of you have probably heard the saying or seen the meme that says if you have an easy firstborn child, don't get too confident. Because your second one's going to come out and there'll be a no-limit soldier who likes to slap and doesn't sleep. Well, I'm not the firstborn. I was number 2. I don't think I slapped, and I did like to sleep. I mean, I went so hard during the day. By the time the sun went down, Mom would find me under my bed so I could sleep. So I did sleep. But I was very bold, very determined, and I like to make my own choices. When you're little, my mom was 22 when I was born. And you have a kid that is, it's not that I didn't like rules, but I wanted to know why.
Yeah.
Make it make sense. And if it made sense, I like to choose right because I like to be right. Dave will probably be like, yeah. I like to be right. I don't like to be wrong. Not that loud. So I'm the second one. My parents mentioned that they started this journey back in the 70s and 80s, right? Dad was a Baptist preacher, early 20s. I can't imagine. As I think back at who I was in my early 20s and all the stuff I was trying to figure out, I'm like, not only were they starting a family, they were leading a flock.
Wow.
That's hard. I couldn't have done it. There's no way. But because their journey started so long ago, that means so did mine and Brian's. We've been witnesses to everything. And by the late 80s, Stephanie and my other brother David had joined, and we were pulling them along for all the highs, all the lows. We've seen it all. And people have said, I know to Mom before, hey, it's awesome that you have your children here. But that wasn't a guarantee.
No.
Even though they started this path when we were young and we've seen it all, we all had to make a choice.
Right.
We saw them gathering the materials to build this ark, and it was a long journey. But we still had to decide to get on the ark.
Right.
And that took a while. It's amazing what all mountains that we faced and we saw be removed. You know, I rehashed, I sat down for hours and I wrote out in my notebook all the things, just rehashing. You know, I've stacked stones through the years, I've strung pearls. But to put it pen to paper and just relive all those things was amazing. It brought back so many emotions of joy and sadness. You know, we've gained a lot, but we've lost a lot. What we thought were losses, and some truly were losses. I've lost children. I've lost people that I love, that I thought would be in this journey with us till the end. And so all these emotions come back. But Yahweh proved himself faithful and merciful.
Yes.
Time and again, day after day, year after year, and now decade after decade.
Right.
My kids will probably be a bit mind blown because I'll get through what I'm supposed to share today pretty quickly. They saw me for hours writing and then typing. Hours. But as I started wrapping up, you know, just the timeline of everything yesterday, I felt something in my spirit that I had to focus on. But truly in the last 3 weeks, as I would ride in the car or be at the gym, it was the same thing Yahweh was talking to me. But I was thinking I needed to expand. So this should be pretty short. As a family, we diligently tried to live in obedience to every tidbit of revelation that we had, starting way back in the 80s. And we did well with that at home. But We were still going to the churches because what else do? You can't just not go to church, right? And we were still in the schools that had the same traditions and doctrines of men and demons that we were coming out of. We weren't living these things at home, but we were surrounded by them. And as a child in Babylon, I mean, you've got this stuff coming at you all the time. And so yesterday, I just kept being brought back to all the warnings in Scripture concerning Babylon and Yahweh's instruction to flee, to run. Don't look back. Run as fast as you can and as far as you can. And to never look back at the provisions that you had in Egypt thinking, how am I going to let that go? That wealth, those titles, those positions, how am I going to let that go? And so you're trying to hang on here and 1 foot outside of Babylon. That's hard to do. The system is so convincing. It's cunning. And it can trap you before you even know it. The system has been very successful in convincing many that if you keep going to its churches and staying in the helps ministry, especially when you don't know anybody that's trying to break free like you are, that at least your kids will still learn Bible verses. Right, that's the basics. They're going to learn Bible verses. They're not going to get tainted by all the other stuff. And then they're going to learn to serve others. They have to go to the schools too, because after all, you're not equipped. You don't have a teaching certificate. So yeah, maybe I can teach them their ABCs. I can't teach them math. I can't teach them sentence diagramming. I can't teach them to write. I'm not equipped. I don't have that teaching certificate. And they need. This is what comes up all the time. They need the socialization. They're going to be weird. They're not going to know how to function as adults if you don't send them to these institutions. Don't you love your kid? This is a trap that is designed and disguised masterfully. It looks safe. It makes sense. The trouble with a trap is never looks like a trap. And when you're in it, it's hard to get out. So think of how challenging it has been for us as adults to break free. It's hard. We're learning the ways of Yahweh, simultaneously unlearning the ways He says are attestable to Him. When people you've known your whole life and you love don't understand, and frankly they don't care to understand why you changed. Why you changed how you eat, when you worship, and why you can't just come to Christmas. Dude, it's family. The onslaught of pressure as an adult is immense. Now, put yourself in a child's shoes. Imagine what it's like as a child who at home doesn't participate in these things and is happy not to. Truly, okay, I'm happy not to. But we've trained them to submit to the authority of the adults in their lives. And then we send them to the schools in Egypt 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then we also faithfully take them to the churches in Babylon every time the doors are open. And sometimes when the doors aren't open, because we got work to do. It's foolish to think that this will help your children. It can only harm them. In these situations, no matter how strong your child is, or how compliant they are, you're going to usually have a kid that's super compliant that goes along to get along. And then usually you have a kid or two that wants to know why and feels like they're bucking the system. When these situations, year after year, day after hour in Babylon, they spend way more time being indoctrinated against Yahweh than you will ever have to show them the truth. Would you set your babies in a dumpster and expect that they wouldn't come out sick and filthy or perish altogether? You wouldn't. Would you tie your children to the train tracks and leave them for 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, and expect them not to get wrecked? You wouldn't. None of us would even be willing to put our cell phones in either of those situations.
Wow.
Why would we do that to our children? At 4 years old, I went to a private school. All was well. We hadn't removed Christmas yet, or all the other holidays. But, was that 4.5, maybe 5.5? We were at my grandmother's, my mom's mom. And Brian and I were in the bedroom where we stayed when we were visiting her. And I remember Dad coming in. Cool, Dad came by, probably in between jobs or school. You know, he worked a lot and he went to school. So Dad was coming in just to make sure he saw us that day. Sweet. And he said, I love you. And because I love you, I can't continue to pretend they're Santa Claus. Brian looks at me and is like, you just say what I think he said? But then Brian was like, as he always is, oh, cool. Okay. I wept. And so, of course, Dad grabs me. And he's like, I'm sorry, you know. It's okay. It was just pretend, you know. I was not upset about losing Santa. I did not care. Thought he was creepy anyway.
He is creepy.
But my intense mind looked at him and said, you lied to me. That's why I was weeping. Because my dad didn't lie. Nothing but the truth parted his lips. And he told us that on a daily basis. He would say something and we'd be like, really? And he'd be like, nothing but the truth parts my lips. And so my reaction was, you lied to me. Okay. But then we moved on. And so at 4 years old, I was at this private school. It was actually a Baptist preschool. And we now knew that Santa wasn't real. And I remember Mom going, look, just don't. Just don't even bring it to him. And I'm thinking, my friends need to know what I know. They need to know the truth that I know. If I'm living with this truth and I feel okay with it, well, don't they want to know that their parents they lied? They'll feel better. No. They didn't want to know the truth. At 5, 6, and 7 years old, I was homeschooled. All is well, except my teacher kept trying to get me transferred out of her class, but sorry, Mom. At 8 years old, I went to a Seventh-day Adventist private school. Leading up to this is when, Dad spent some time with Mr. Oxberger and started finding out more, right? We were already had left the Baptist church, but now Dad's digging in even deeper. So we couldn't go back to these other churches, and we're trying to figure things out. So they sent us to a Seventh-day Adventist private school. All was well. We were stopping the pagan celebrations. We had stopped eating unclean. It was cool. I'm like, okay. Well, at 9 years old, I entered public school for the first time as a 4th grader. And I know when we were looking for homes, we found one that I think our whole family liked, but it was in the school district. It was in Moody School District. But the school system in Moody, their mascot was the Blue Devils. And I remember Mom going, nope, nope, no way, my kids will not be called Devils. And I'm going, okay. So we ended up moving to the town they grew up in. And the school system there, you know, the mascot was the Fighting Saints. Much better, right? So in 4th grade, I go to public school. I'm a Fighting Saint at this point, and all was well. My teacher was very accommodating. When I declined to participate in all the festivities surrounding the holidays or in eating the foods that were unclean, she helped me. I had something else to do, and she didn't make me feel bad. So I was bold about it. At 10 years old, I was still in the same public school, and I got dealt the cruelest teacher in the history of teachers. So when I declined to participate in Halloween, she didn't get angry, not too bad. She just scoffed. I can deal with that, whatever. A couple months later, when I refused to decorate my paper Christmas tree, all hell broke loose. I was marched or drug, I don't know how you would say it, to the front of the room as a 10-year-old and given the verbal assault, showers of shame, public humiliation, I mean, the highest level. I was a baby. It was brutal. I was embarrassed and I was confused. And this moment of Pharisaical glory that she just got to live in, it wasn't enough for her. So as we're walking to the lunchroom, she's walking behind us with the other 5th and 6th grade teachers, making sure they all knew that I didn't love Jesus and I was a troublemaker. Now, my mama didn't let this slide. Mama almost caught charges when I got home and told her. I mean, she was up at that school fighting for me. But it was too late. I decided then and there, before I got the chance to tell my mom, that I would never draw attention to myself again. Even though I didn't even mean to this time. I didn't mean to. I wasn't causing trouble. I wouldn't want to participate in the festivities at school anymore. Color the pictures or decorate the classroom. Y'all, it was simple stuff. Like, it didn't even matter. So I determined, okay, on the inside, I'm going to not want to do these things, but never again will I draw attention to myself. So I'll just go through the motions. I'll just be there. So long as it meant I could avoid the assault. It didn't work out. You spend years just kind of floating in Babylon. Christmas actually finds its way entangled back in your life. You can't voluntarily go back to Babylon and avoid its entanglements.
That was true.
It gets you.
Yeah.
You can't go just to keep peace
Nope.
with family and friends and it not wrap its tentacles back around you and try to pull you back under.
That's right.
So I was super confused and frustrated. And then, of course, my frustration eventually turns to anger. I was just mad. When I was a junior in high school, I was riding with my mom, and I remember turning to her and telling her, as soon as I graduate high school, I will never go to church again. Never. And I meant it. I didn't say this from a place of unbelief in Yahweh. I still believed. Still loved Him. But I don't do well with rules that don't make sense. I was angry, I was confused, and frankly, I didn't even want to try. It was wearying. So of course Dad says, like he should, under his roof, there are certain rules, certain requirements. And in my great ignorance, after I graduated high school, I said, at 1 o'clock in the morning, I said, okay, bye. I left. In the middle of the night, I left. 17 years old. My parents didn't have the phone number of the townhouse I ended up moving into at Jacksonville State University, but I had started a job in Birmingham, and they had my office number there. And thankfully they would call me, mainly Mom, on a regular basis at work. And ask me to come home, and I would just say, no thanks. You still require that I go to this church, and if I live under your roof, and I'm not going to. You haven't changed, neither have I. So, many calls like this. She's so patient. You know, people talk about having helicopter moms, and you think of those little, like, cute sightseeing helicopters that just take you over the ocean so you can see what's under you. Mom was like a Black Hawk, fully loaded and equipped. She was very persistent. She got stuff done. But one day, Mom called me again at work and told me that Stephanie was so upset that I left without saying goodbye. She's 6.5 years younger than me. She wasn't even 12 yet when I left. That was a guilt trip. Thanks, Mom. But I told her that I would come by the house after they got home from church that upcoming weekend so I could see Stephanie, but that was it. Don't expect anything else from me. When I got there, Stephanie was 11 at the time. In tears, she hugged me so tightly. She wouldn't let go. Little. Younger than my baby girl back there. That one moment began to chip away at the wall that I had spent so many years building around my heart. So I thought, man, I gotta get out of here. These people, they're gonna destroy my wall. What? So as I was saying goodbye, I'm like, gotta go. About to walk out the door, I remember, just like it was yesterday, Dad propped up in the kitchen against the counter by the sink. And he said, come home. I said, I can't. Dad, nothing's changed. Your requirements are the same. And my resolve hasn't shifted. I mean, not only that, but now I was enrolled and taking classes at Jacksonville State. I'd signed a lease there as well. And Dad wasn't a big hugger, but he hugged me. And that wall that Stephanie took a little hammer to sustained another major blow when my daddy embraced me. There's nothing like the love of a father. Nothing like it. He said, if you just come home, we'll figure everything out. Man, I love my whole family very much. But Dad, he was my everything. More than anyone else, I longed my whole life to please him. My whole life, I never wanted to disappoint him. I mean, since I was little, I wanted to be just like him and make him proud. You know, Mom and Dad had me, cute little girl. You think, oh, great, dainty, quiet, sweet. No, I wanted to be like Dad. Mom, I can't do all this if I'm in a cute pink dress. I can't go to work with Daddy if I'm dressed like this. He was my person. So I could see now, in this moment, that I had hurt the one person that I never wanted to hurt. Me leaving hurt him. So I came back. Yahweh was good to me. And He made certain that I was rescued and restored. There's a lot that transpired, obviously, after this that got me and my family in Texas. You know, I was going to go there by myself too. Whole family goes. Okay. But a lot transpired to get us to Texas, back to Alabama, to begin what is now the Assembly of Yahweh. But I can't go there today. All of us sitting here realize that we were lied to and fed traditions of men and false doctrines. And we sat there and we went, you lied to me.
Right.
You lied to me. We all heard Yahweh's call to flee Babylon. He said, come out. And that means all the way out.
Yep.
Don't continue to send your kids back to Babylon so they can socialize or learn the basics. He said flee. Run as far away as you can, as fast as you can. And if there is nothing there for us as adults, there is for dang sure nothing there for our children. The lie that you're not smart enough to teach your own children everything they need in order to thrive is a lie.
Right.
We're tired of being lied to.
Yes.
And that's a lie from the pit of hell.
Yes.
Yahweh calls us and He also equips us.
Yes.
Due to varying circumstances, I understand that many may not see how they could possibly get their children out of the schools in this godless system. Ask Yahweh who answers. He is able and He's willing to make a way. I didn't ever plan. Never planned. Not only did I not plan to homeschool, I planned not to homeschool my kids. And Dave was right there with me. We were both staunchly against it in the beginning of our marriage. Financially, it didn't make sense. I worked well. And we needed the finances. We needed it, right? But Yahweh began working on both of us. In 2008, I kept feeling an urge in my spirit to flee the city. We lived in a subdivision in Huntsville. At the same time I was feeling this urge to flee the city, I was also instructed that I would need to homeschool our kids too. What? Well, I didn't want to go to Dave after we both had agreed that homeschooled kids were weird. It'd be like, hey, want to make our kids really weird? I didn't want to do that. No. I didn't want to have to contend. And we still had years, several years, before our kids would need to be in school. So I began praying and asking Yahweh. I don't like to be told what to do. Neither does my husband. I'm like, we're going to pray. Well, we moved out of Huntsville to the place we are now. It was actually Memorial Day weekend of 2011. So we've been here quite a while. And soon after we moved, Dave comes and says, hey, did you know Tim Tebow was homeschooled? He's not weird. He's still athletic. And that was it. So easy. I mean, Yahweh just, that was it. We're like, okay, well, guess we're homeschooling. We made plans in our hearts, both of our hearts, to homeschool. And once again, Yahweh showed up and He made a way. Because even though it was like, whoop, that was it, there's still so much to figure out. Financially, how? There's no way. How will we sustain this property and this home that we were still making payments on? But Yahweh has provided even when it looked like we were down to our last bit of flour and oil and we could only go back in and make one last cake. Willie G will be a sophomore this upcoming school year, and Eva will be in 7th grade. They've been schooled by Dave and I the entire time. They've been taught to follow Yahweh from the beginning of their journeys, and they excel in school. The relationships that Dave and I have gotten to forge with our children as we seek after Yahweh together has been the most amazing experience I've ever had in this earth. Ever. I'm so thankful. I've shared this in obedience, but also with this expectant hope that it will encourage you to always take Yahweh at His word. Fear not, be courageous. He will always make a way.
Yes.
When I came to Torah, it all made sense. I no longer had to strive with bucking against rules and regulations that I couldn't agree with. It didn't make sense to me, and so I'm labeled strong-willed. Okay? But in Torah, all the rules lead me to my Messiah.
Yes.
And they're easy.
Yeah.
So the struggles and the intensity that I was known for, those roaring waves were able to calm down.
Yeah.
You know, my sister and I were talking recently, and I said something about how chill of a mom I am. And she's like, I can't believe it. So because I was very intense. Some called it aggressive. But I like to be right. And I like everybody around me to be right. Just do what's right. I still say that all the time. I'm like, why can't you just do what's right? It's not that hard, but Torah made it easy.
Yeah.
Now, do I still have to dig my heels in sometimes and fight when I think there's an injustice somewhere against me or somebody I love? Bet. But I'm finally at peace. I'm finally one of the quiet ones. And that's because of my Messiah. And my Father's word, His Torah, His instructions that have settled what my soul was searching for all those years. So I'll wrap this up by just saying, Mom and Dad, the courage and the steadfastness that both of you have shown to follow Yahweh no matter what and no matter who came along. It's been inspiring, but it's been a call to action for the rest of us. Thank you for leading the way and for never giving up. Because of you, I'm determined to walk in the same light. Because of you, I'm determined to live with the same courage and steadfastness so that my children can one day stand up here and testify and say, yeah, I saw Yahweh do it for my parents and us as a family, and I too choose to walk in Torah.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad.
Yes. Go ahead.
We talked on the way over here, which one wants to go first? Like, I don't care, you pick. Well, now it's like walking up to the plate after the dude in front of you hit a 3-run homer. And it's like, how do I compete with that? So, not trying to compete with it, but it does make you realize that I've never heard like her whole story and all that. So it, on a humorous sense, kind of makes me wonder how I ever ended up with her. But I'm going to give you kind of a short background on me. My background isn't all that. The walk isn't quite as in depth as that because I didn't grow up exactly that way. But I'm going to give you a short rundown on that, but then kind of direct it towards what I've learned and where I'm going with it,
Yes.
and help some people that may want to hear it on here or in the room. Just things I've learned that help me on my daily grind. If you want to call it a grind, it's not a grind. But my family background, I was born and raised in Florence, but then raised mostly in Huntsville. We were a Baptist family. Went to church in Huntsville, Valley Fellowship. Pretty good church is all I knew. Had friends and family over there. When I was a kid, I had unanswered questions. My mom was big Bible. My dad was kind of like, don't get too caught up in the politics of it. You know, there is a God. You know, you're going to answer to Him one day. Things like that. But my dad was just really simple. You know, my mom was very detailed and oriented, and it was, you know, praise and worship was a big deal, stuff like that. My dad didn't show up till after praise and worship. To give you an idea, he just wanted to hear the message, go on about his day. You know, my dad was kind of a guy. Always made us breakfast in the morning. Always had these little one-liners. He's like Wyatt Earp in Tombstone. He was not a man of many words, but when he talked, you listened. Some of the ones I heard regularly that I still apply. Today's the first day of the rest of your life. Can't change yesterday. But you can change today, and you got to constantly move on. And I heard that, I don't know how many breakfasts. My dad standing in his underwear, farting at the stove while he's telling us, while we're sitting here at the table waiting for breakfast. But it was just, that's how my dad was. It was like, he was a solid mixture between Cousin Eddie and Wyatt Earp. And still is to some degree. He's got that sense of humor, but he's also very, very serious. You don't mess with him at the same time. Sorry for calling you out, Dad, if you ever watch this. Hope you laugh at it. But keep it simple, stupid. He used to say that all the time. My dad's military, still says it to this day. If I ever had a question in baseball or my phone ever rang and I was in a slump or something like that, I knew what I was going to hear. Keep it simple, stupid. This game's 6 inches between your ears. Get your mind right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, those were like prominent one-liners that he used all the time. And they sank in. I don't know how many times it took for him to say it before it sank in, but he was going to say it regardless until it did. My mom, on the other hand, was just very motherly. She loved you no matter what. She was always right there with you. She's going to hug you. She's going to love you. You're going to go to church on Sunday. She wasn't much of a whip cracker. That was my dad. But she was the kind of the soft one. You know, she was always there to hold you, whatever you needed. So I didn't get into... I had an older brother, and he didn't get into a whole lot of trouble, but the little bit of trouble he would get into, I was the younger brother, so I would learn from that. And for the most part, when I was young, I stayed out of trouble because I would learn from his mistakes. That's the beauty of being the younger kid, is you get to see even the little mistakes, how they cost you, how you get spanked over this little thing or whatever. Well, Daddy doesn't like me. It's because you don't listen, man. Listen. You know, and I would see those things. He had trouble seeing them sometimes because he was in it. But from the outside looking in, you see those things. So that kept me pretty straight arrow as a kid. I was kind of nerdy. I just wanted to play baseball. Didn't care about much of anything else. Even when it came to friends, my dad was... one of the things he would say was, it's not how many friends you have, it's the quality of friends you have. So he said, in your life, you're going to probably find 1 or 2 friends that are just your man. I mean, they got your back no matter what. one or two. He said, you're going to have a bunch of acquaintances, but you're going to have probably one or two if you're lucky. And he's pretty spot on with that until you meet the Torah family. Then we all think like-minded. But in the other side of things, that's pretty much how it was. You had your one or two boys. Other than that, it just, they're just people that were on your baseball team. You never hung out with them. You didn't want to partake in what they were doing. So I clung to that pretty good too, and held tightly to the guys who thought like me and tried to stay out of trouble the best we could. Now, before my senior year in high school, my parents got divorced, and kind of came to a shock to me because I never even saw it coming. I never saw them fussing and fighting all the time, nothing like that. It just one day it was, hey, we're going to get a divorce, and I was like, okay. So the best decision for me was in my hands. I had to make what I thought was a good decision. Based on my future, I wanted to be a baseball player. I knew my dad was hard on me, but I knew he was going to expect a lot, which was going to challenge me. I also thought that I factored in with my mom. I could, knowing my temperament, I'm going to get away with whatever I can with her, and I don't want to do that to her. I know my dad's going to keep me straight. So I chose to live with my dad. My senior year, we moved to Lee High School District, and we went to Lee High School. So I could finish out my senior year and play baseball there. Worked out as planned, but when I went to college, my dad went to El Salvador with the Army. Of course, my mom was still at home, and we had kind of lost a little bit of touch in that senior year because you're busy. She's, you talk on the phone every once in a while, but when you're split, things change. I mean, you can't really help it. It just changes.
Right.
But when that split happened in college, and my dad goes to El Salvador, my mom's kind of out of sight at the time. That's when your temptations are going to come at you a little harder. And I'm not going to say I just got totally stupid, but I made more bad decisions than I had. And when you're around a bunch of baseball players who think they can get away with anything, and coaches actually let it happen, you make decisions, even when you're trying to do it right, you make decisions that aren't necessarily you. Well, a little mistake when it's not fixed, what happens? Turns into bigger mistakes. So through the years of baseball, those little mistakes started getting bigger, and I didn't necessarily like it, but the way I was raised in church is I thought, I can screw up, I can ask for forgiveness later.
Right.
And then I can screw up again, and I can ask for forgiveness later. He's going to honor that because that's what I was raised to think. He's going to give you as many chances as you need, which to some degree is right. But there's also a limit to how stupid you can be and how many bad choices you can make before something bites you. Going through those decisions as I got older, I got tired of repenting over things that I just knew weren't right. I knew it. The peace wasn't there at night. And eventually it catches up to you and you're just like, man, I need some change. This is not working out. I've tried the dummy path and I get dummy rewards. I'm tired of that. So I just ultimately wanted to go back to where I had peace like I did when I was a kid. Because you go to bed at night as a kid, you don't think about anything. There's just a whole world out there to explore. And I wasn't really thinking about that anymore. My goals had become something bigger than God at the time, or YAHWEH now. So that picture got distorted a lot. Well, it's funny how he works. When you set your mind and heart to doing it right, and you put your mind there, it doesn't necessarily take him that long to answer. He knows your heart, and he knows when you're being serious and when you're not being serious. But without getting into too many details, my bad decisions were starting to kind of come at me. The dummy rewards were coming at me pretty quick, all of a sudden. And I just made my mind up one night, I'm done with it. I'm done with chicks. I ain't even talking to one anymore. I'm done with it. I don't care if I got to fly solo, if I got to move to Taiwan. I don't care. I'm not talking to chicks anymore. Done with it. And the alternative was not a question. That was not going to happen either. Cause not into dudes either. But I was done messing with girls. Period. Well, when I made that decision 100% in my mind, there was no backtracking on that. All right. Well, about 2 weeks later, Yahweh found this little window of, okay, he's not being stupid. Maybe I can help him. And so about 2 weeks later, I was in full focus of the decision I had made. And a couple of my buddies asked me, hey, you want to go out and have a drink before we go to spring training? And I was like, sure. Where are we going to go? Well, we're thinking about going over here. And I was like, well, I'm not going to a club. I ain't doing it. I said, I'll go to a restaurant, something like that, where there's a low scene. I don't want anything that's going to have women there. All right. And so we sat and had a drink. Well, after you had a drink, your buddies go, hey, you want to go over here? And I'm like, no, not going over there. Well, they stayed persistent with that. And I'm probably going to tell on you a little bit, but
No.
how it works out. but I eventually caved in. But in my mind, I was like, I'm going to go, but I got my blinders on, and I'm here with my boys, and that's it. Nothing else. And so we go over there, and 50-cent beer night. We go over there, sit down, and little do you know, that's where I meet my wife, who didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there, but yet we still found each other somehow. And when people say Yahweh works in mysterious ways, they are correct when they say that, from my experience. But having that come together the way it came together was only him, and I knew it was only him, and I knew that was he probably knew, and I probably knew that was the only way he was ever going to get me somebody good, was the way it happened. And so I know he works like that. But I'm not saying go to a club and that's where you're gonna do that.
It wasn't a club.
It's the only club in Huntsville.
It was a music hall.
A music hall. Well, we were there listening to music. We didn't. Neither one of us wanted to be there, and I will state that again.
Not a club.
But that was.
Grounded. It was.
But look,
For the rest of your life.
that's where the chapter turned in my life.
Yes.
Was once. It didn't take me long to realize that was from Yahweh, and I can move forward now. Mm-hmm. And we talked on the phone 1 or 2 times before I realized that. 1 or 2 times into it, and she started talking about, she just got it right out front, right quick. Ladies, take note, if you're going to date somebody, or men, take note, if you're going to date somebody, just lay it out front. Don't hide it and think you're going to change somebody slowly.
Right.
Either they agree with it or they don't agree with it. And if they don't, get them the heck out of there.
Right.
There you go.
Don't waste your time. Her being smart and prepared, and the way her parents raised her, she did the right thing. And she laid it out for me right up front and said, here's what we do. And she mentioned the name Yahweh, and I was like, what'd you say? She said, Yahweh. And I was like, who's that? That's God. That's God's name. Really? I had no clue, and she had me right there. I was like, oh, I was wondering at 7, 8 years old, everybody's saying, praise the Lord, praise your holy name. And I'm like, nobody ever says his name. Why not? I mean, you want, praise your holy name, praise your holy name. I even asked my mom, what's his name? Nobody can answer that question for me. But she answered it on the first phone call we had in Arizona, and I was hooked like that because I was like, there's a girl who knows her Bible, and she's going to keep me straight. And I needed somebody like that. Then we started talking about Easter. My dad, like I said, my dad was a very simple man. Wasn't a big holiday guy. I could probably count on one hand how many times we celebrated Easter growing up. But we would always go to the sunrise services and stuff like that. So I was very familiar with Easter. But my dad just wasn't a big celebration guy. So we, as far as painting eggs and all that stuff, we never got into depth like that. My dad thought all that stuff was garbage anyway. Santa Claus, never really believed in him. They never made a big deal out of Christmas. In fact, my dad would always set us down and read the Bible to us before we opened presents, never make it about Santa Claus. However, it still mingled in there. So when she started telling me some truth about this, I was very open to hearing what she had to say because my heart was in the right place at that point. If she'd have talked to me 2 years before about that, I probably would have just left it alone. But I had to find that part in my heart where I was willing.
Yep.
Yahweh gave me the opportunity, and thankful He did. But those things still came to butt heads later on with family. Because once I started hearing the truth, just like Amanda said with her, once I found Santa Claus wasn't real, I thought everybody wanted to know that.
Yeah.
Well, you realize real quick, people don't necessarily, they're not in that position where they want to know those things. So you got to kind of keep that on the wrap a little bit. And just let people know where you stand, not necessarily trying to correct them. This is where I stand. This is what I'm going to do. You're going to have to make your own decisions. But when I answer before Yahweh, I want to be confident in that I did what I knew I had to do. And I don't want to sit there before Him going, but he said, she said, he said, she said. That's not, I mean, who would want to do that in front of somebody, especially the Creator who's either going to, you're going this way or this way, bud. You're not going both ways. You can't have it in the middle. And, so when it came to the whole Christmas thing, it was for me, it was just standing your ground. I didn't think it was all that hard. It was just being willing to lose whatever you had to lose to get what you wanted on that. Because I wasn't going to back down at that point. And my family didn't either for a long time. And they're starting to, anybody who's having family issues with some of the things that we've gotten into, be patient with them. They will slowly start coming around the more they see you aren't weird, and the more they see what you're doing is bringing rewards in your life. Sometimes through your kids, my wife. They don't just look at me; they look at who's around me, and they see them living a certain way. And us holding each other accountable to those things. And who can't look at something good and realize, that's good.
Right.
But if you just go around boasting about it all the time, you're pointing fingers at them going, dude, you need to change this, you need to change that, you need to change this. Nobody is going to just go all in on something like that. People have to be ready to make that change.
Right.
Well, it took me and my family about 10 years to get there. Me and my mom probably hadn't talked 5 times in 12, 13 years. But we're starting to come around. She's starting to see, both of my parents are starting to say Yahweh now.
Yeah.
Have they totally abandoned Christmas yet? I don't know. My dad hasn't completely yet, but I think he's starting to see little bits and pieces at a time, just like we all did, I believe, to get us to the point. None of us went from 0 to 100 overnight.
Nope.
We all had to tiptoe into things and just test the waters, and then you see a benefit from that, and you go, okay, that's not so bad. What's next? And you go, and it's a step-by-step process. Don't expect people to change overnight. I know I didn't. Some people maybe, but I know I didn't. I can only speak for myself. So in my journey, that's kind of how that unfolded. There was about 3 or 4 years where I just didn't know who I was, and my family didn't know who I was. And then when I started making the change, they thought I went off the complete opposite deep end, instead of actually finding the truth. And talk to Yahweh. If you're trying to make that change, talk to Yahweh. His relationship really are the only thing that really matter on this earth.
True.
I don't care if anybody on this earth understands why I might do something. He understands.
Right.
Because he's the one I talk to all day.
Right.
He's not an imaginary friend.
Right.
You can actually talk to him and he'll give you answers.
Yes, he will.
He will give them to you immediately sometimes. Sometimes he'll give you the answer before the question ever leaves your mouth. I left my mom's house one time. She goes, "Dave, you're not Jewish." This was back when we were first starting. "You are not Jewish." And she was, in her mind, she was trying to remind me who I was. In my mind, I'm like, I don't think I'm Jewish, Mama. And that's what I left her with. I don't think I'm Jewish. But I left the house thinking, I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not Jewish, I don't think. I'm not a Gentile, I don't think. So what am I? And I got him up. I was working at Interstate Battery at the time, and I had a white van kids ran from when I pull in the neighborhood. You pull in the neighborhood in this white van with batteries, and everybody's like, "Oh, who's that guy?" But I jumped in my little white van, and I started driving down the road. And I asked Yahweh, I said, "Who am I?" And before I even got the who out, I still finished the sentence or the question, but before I even got the who out, he said, "You're my son." Really? Okay. So I picked up my phone, I texted my mom and said, "I'm a son. I'm not a Jew. I'm not a Gentile, I'm just a son." And I didn't even know that was in the Bible yet. I just knew I had the answer.
Right.
And what was funny is about 3 weeks later, Steve happened to be teaching a lesson and read the verse where it said, "You are sons and daughters." And I was like,
There you go.
Yahweh answered that. I did not come up with that answer. I didn't fabricate it in my mind. It was an immediate, "You're my son."
Right.
And that's how he answers sometimes. He doesn't always answer that quickly, but he can and he will. If it's important to him, he's going to get to it right away.
Yes.
Some things we want aren't that important. We just think they are.
Yeah.
And it might take him a year or two to get them to you. But if it's important and he knows it is, he's going to get it to you. So little things like that have guided me and helped me get through my situations. So listen to him, talk to him. When you're driving in your car, talk to him. Just talk to him. You know what I'm saying? He's a normal dude. He created us in his image. He is a normal, he knows how we think. He doesn't expect us to be super, super holy, spiritual, weird people. He talks to us on our level. He knows who we are. He knows what makes us tick. He created us. And when you need an answer, he's going to give it to you. When you need a friend, he's going to be there for you. Whatever. He knows how to work. He created us for him. He wanted friends. When he created us, I tell my kids, he created us for people to hang out with. He wanted us to hang out with him. But how would you feel if you created something and what you created didn't want to hang out with you? Mm-hmm. They wanted to hang out with other things. They care about other stuff more than they care about you. No kid makes a Lego Batman and then the Batman just run off and that little kid's going to be happy. He would take that Lego and throw it in the garbage. You know what I'm saying? And Yahweh will do the same thing. He will, if you're just disconnected completely and you have no desire for him, he cuts you off. Just like any of us would. But he created us for him. So that relationship to him is super important. It's us that has to make our mind up whether or not it's important to us. But He's willing to talk to you and be your friend. It's just on our end, we got to get that straight. So I'll turn the page now. That's kind of a boring history of mine and what my little walk. But to turn the page and go forward with things that help me, maybe it'll help somebody that's listening. Start off by reading your Bible.
Right.
If you don't know what your Bible says, anybody can tell you what it says or what they think it says.
Right.
And now you're at their mercy. Whatever they tell you, you're at their mercy if you believe it.
Right.
Read your own Bible and don't just read it. Before you read it, make your mind up that you're willing to do what that book says.
Right.
Yeah.
It is a rule book for you. I was talking to a homeless man one time. I was actually taking him to another spot, and I was telling him about the Bible. And little did he know, he helped me out too, because I was driving him, and I was like, if Yahweh told me to drive this guy over here, then I'm gonna tell him a little bit about the Bible too. So I was driving him to Scottsboro, and I was talking to him about the Bible, and he goes, "You know what my pastor said?" He said, "You know what Bible means?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Basic instructions before life ends." That's what it stands for. And I was like, dude, that's pretty simple. I like that. And we got to talking about that. But if you look at the Bible as an instruction manual for life, and you're willing to do what it says, it really ain't that hard.
Right.
It's either you do it or you don't do it. It's a yes or a no. It's not a gray, I can do some of it, not do some of it. The book is there to instruct you how to be good at this life.
Right.
It's not a bad book. It's not to be twisted and manipulated and all that. The book will tell you exactly what you need to know. So read it. Be willing to do what it says. And I had done some of that. That helped me get to where I was. But then I had this question, and I asked Mr. Martin one day, "Where do I start reading my Bible?" And he looked at me like I was stupid, and he goes, "Well, like any other book, Dave, at the beginning." I was like, "Well, crap, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Start at the beginning of it." Because sometimes we just skip around and we just like, what? I'll just blindly open the book and let me read a few verses or something. Start at the beginning so you're not missing things. Nobody starts a book in the middle of it. You're going to miss the whole basis of the book. Know your purpose. Yahweh wanted company. Give him company. Talk to him.
Yeah.
Pray to him. If you're spending more time with other people than you are him, then your thoughts are going to start getting different. You're not aligned with his thinking at that point.
Right.
You've got to have a relationship with him. Nobody in this room knows my relationship with him as well as I do, because I talk to him all the time. And I don't go around telling people I do. I just talk to him all the time. Third base box. Last weekend, we're sitting there playing a tournament in Athens. Sabbath. I know where I'm supposed to be with my family, but then I have a responsibility of these kids, teaching them things, and I'm just on third base box, and you're just talking to Yahweh. Middle of a baseball game. I get to be on a baseball field, but I'm talking to Yahweh. You to talk to him. Anywhere you are, talk to him. Mr. Martin all the time. I was just driving down the street minding my own business.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you he is minding his own business with Yahweh.
Right. Right.
not just trying to ignore him. But those things right there, minding your own business and you're talking to Yahweh, those are things I try to do because I've heard him say it 100 times. But I'll do it anywhere. So give Yahweh that company. Talk to him. Y'all understand Yahweh's rules are for your safety and for your successes and everything in life.
Yeah.
He's not giving you commands to bottle you up.
Right.
And keep you from doing great things. He gives you those commands that are very very broad. I mean, they give you a lot of room to play. They don't just hone you in this little bubble. So when it comes to those rules, Mr. Martin put it great several years ago. He said, rules are like a fence around your life. You can do anything you want to do inside that fence. Anything. Just don't get outside the fence, go play in the street and get hit by a car. And Yahweh gives you those rules for that purpose. Stay inside that fence and don't be scared of them. So if you're starting to learn these things, don't be scared of the rules. Here's the rules. Here's the rules he gave Moses. No gods before him. He's your number one source. That shouldn't be that hard.
No, it shouldn't.
No graven images. Take down pictures in your house that you think look like Jesus. You don't know what he looked like. Jesus doesn't want a picture, or Yeshua doesn't want a picture of some weird looking hippie dude on the wall representing him no more than you do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you looked at this picture over here and said, that's Dave, and I'm like, I don't look like a sailboat. Nobody would agree with that. I mean, it's common sense. Don't take his name in vain. Don't be scared to use his name. Yes, people are going to look at you weird. But when somebody else is saying, something about church or God or this or that, don't take his name and hide it. Use his name.
Yep.
Because that's a conversation piece that person needs to know. You don't have to go down this 30-minute road on how you discovered it and everything else. Use the name. That's how Amanda hooked me, using the name.
Right.
Had she hid that, I would have been like, it's the same crap I've heard my whole life.
Right.
But when she said it, I was like, oh, what was that? He's got a name? Holy cow. And yes, some people are going to go, who cares? And then some people are going to go, that's interesting. Then they're going to go look it up like I did, and they're going to get drawn closer,
Yeah.
which allows another door to open, then another, then another, then another. She didn't have to preach the whole Bible to me in one sit down. It was one little piece at a time. And then it started motivating me. Remember the Sabbath. How hard is it to rest? Is that a difficult command for real? Honor your father and your mother. Make people, when they see you, make them think that your parents did a good job raising you. How hard is that?
That's good.
That's not that hard. That's honoring your father and mother. It doesn't mean you have to have a super strong necessarily relationship, because we had years apart where they didn't understand where I was and I was trying to prove to them that I was going to do it right. But now, one of the things that draws my parents closer after these years is that they see my family and they meet people that know me really well, because our relationship has grown distant. They meet people that do know me well, and they go, that's a good dude. You did a good job raising him. That makes them proud.
Right.
I did not have to fight with them.
Nope.
Not once have I fought with my parents. But I did give them space, because I didn't want to fight. Don't kill. That's a tough one. Don't commit adultery. It shouldn't be that hard. Don't steal. Don't put your hand on a candy bar and walk out of the store. It's not that hard. Don't bear false witness. Don't lie about people. You can be a witness. I mean, you can tell people the truth, but don't lie about somebody. Don't, for the main purpose of telling, I mean, it goes back to kindergarten. I'm not going to put Brian down so people think higher of me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's common sense stuff. I remember learning that in first grade. Don't covet. Somebody buys a nice car, be happy for them.
Right.
Good job, dude. I like your car. That's awesome. I don't want one, but that's a nice car. It looks good on you.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's okay to not covet. That's not that hard. Those are the 10 rules he gave Moses to give to all the people. That is not hard stuff, y'all. And that is a starting point. And there's a lot of other little rules in there that will help you shape yourself into somebody that Yahweh can ultimately be super proud of. But if you don't first do those simple things, then those other things aren't going to come. He said, if you love him, keep his commandments. I love God. Well, if you're coveting, you're not necessarily loving him as much as you think you are. If you're committing adultery, you're not loving him as much as you think you are. If you have graven images, maybe you don't love him as much as you think you do. But be willing to do those simple commandments. If people think you're weird, who cares? I don't care what people think. I care what he thinks. When I go to bed at night and I talk to him, or when I'm driving the road and I talk to him, I don't want him to be disappointed. Right. I don't care if Uncle Charles is disappointed in me. Right. Because he doesn't understand. I care what he thinks. Gain knowledge. Read your Bible. Be disciplined. These are things I teach my baseball players. Knowledge without discipline does you no good. There's a lot of people that know their Bible but won't do their Bible. Mm-hmm. If you're not willing to do it, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have. Yahweh's not going to give you credit for how much knowledge you have.
That's right.
It's what you do with that knowledge that he's going to grade you on.
That's right.
So you got to be disciplined. That means mind controls the body. So if your body's doing things wrong, it ain't your body's fault.
Right.
It's your mind's fault.
Yep.
You with me there?
Right.
And Yeshua said, if you just looked on that woman, you've committed adultery already. Just the thought got him in trouble. It wasn't the action. It was just the thought, and he knew that was going to blossom into something bigger. Right? So the mental side of it, you got to be disciplined here, and the body's going to do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Good process, good result. If I got a good process here, the body's going to do what's right. If I got a bad process, my body's going to do what's wrong. All right. So if I'm doing things wrong, it's your mind. You got to go back to and fix. Be strong enough physically and mentally to accomplish what it is you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish. It's going to take toughness. It's going to take standing firm. It's going to take looking people in the eye and telling them no. Mm-hmm. You can't just sneak around things. All right. And I teach these kids, adversity does not dodge you. Adversity's right there staring you in the face, and you cannot go around it.
Right.
If there's adversity right there, you've got to hit it head on. That's what men do. And that's what women do. If you don't have a man, that's what you got to do as a woman. If you got a man, get your man on it. All right, but you got to hit that adversity head on and go through it. Don't try to dodge it. Just man up and get it. It doesn't matter what they think. Again, it matters what he thinks. David did not dodge Goliath, and neither did that stone. He put that thing right where it was supposed to be, and David was not scared of him. What's your purpose once you know those things? Really simple. Help other people know those things. Teach other people how to do them. When I learn something, that's good for me, but if I don't help somebody else do it, then what's the point? You know, Yahweh's going to grade us on the fruit. One of the things he's going to grade us on is the fruit we produce. Mm-hmm. So if I don't produce any fruit and I go up to him empty-handed and going, I didn't really, I got myself right, but I didn't want to help anybody else. Well, that's the talent thing. He's not happy with that. You got to have something for him when you show up. Every week, Mr. Martin puts things into us and creates fruit. We've got to do the same for other people.
Right.
When we leave here, we've got to do the same thing for other people. And that's not all at once. That's hear somebody in Walmart saying something, throw a little gold nugget for them. If they want it, they can have it. If they don't, they'll leave it behind, whatever. And maybe they'll think about it days from now. But you never know. Plant a seed somewhere. Throw some seed out. It's going to land in rocky places and good places, whatever else. Be willing to adjust. If something ain't going right, or you say something wrong in a certain circumstance, that's okay. That was just one circumstance.
Right.
Make an adjustment, and the next time that comes up, do it right the next time. Mm-hmm. All right? I sell roofs during the day, and sometimes I say the wrong things to people thinking they might laugh and they don't. Or maybe I read the person wrong and I thought they were a little nicer than they actually were, or something like that. And I'll leave there and it frustrates me at first, but then I'm like, the next time I see somebody like that, I'm going to know who I'm dealing with.
Right.
And I know what to say. I know when to say it, how to say it, to get that person to like the sales pitch and get a new roof from me. All right? Well, when you're sharing the Bible with people, you got to be strategic in the way you place those things in people's ears. They don't just like getting talked down to and things like that. They're normal people too. They want to get talked to like a normal person. So you can't just put a match out with a fire hose kind of thing. You got to go deal with it as it comes, the way it needs to be dealt with, which is going to take practice, which is going to take some failure, which is going to lead to some success ultimately if you do it. But that's pretty much all I got. It ain't. I don't know how fancy that was, but at the end of the day, if you're not going forward, you're going backward. Keep pushing forward, and don't care what other people think about that. You answer face to face one day for yourself, not for other people, and likewise they do the same. So just try your best to arm them, arm yourself first, so you can help them, and keep doing what you do. That's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. His name is put upon you, so shall he himself bless you. Hallelujah. You're dismissed.